On today's show, we're having an argument all about rebranding. Is it smart? Is it stupid? What should you do for your brand, for your business? I'm your co-host, Kip Bodner, CMO at HubSpot. I'm joined by my co-host, Kieran Flanagan, the CMO at Zapier. We're walking through brand frameworks. We're talking a little bit about how everybody's missing the point on the Twitter to X rebrand, and we're giving you some examples of the worst rebrands of all time. And stick around to the end of the show for the one time it's worth rebranding your company. This is Marketing Against the Grain, your show for marketing-minded people everywhere. Let's get into today's show. We're talking rebrand, Kieran. The reason we're talking rebrand is because obviously the Twitter rebrand to X, but that isn't the topic of the show. We're not going to sit here and clown on Elon for the rebrand of Twitter to X. I think there's points to be made on each of it. But we want to talk all about rebranding, and my hot take to open the show is rebranding is frickin' stupid. And that you should almost never rebrand. Like, tell me the good reasons to rebrand. Tell me a successful rebrand that you're like, you know what? That rebrand worked great.
Okay, we did this a little bit off air, so let's do it on air. So there's a lot of logical reasons to do rebrands because
There's a lot of logical reasons to do a bunch of shit, but doesn't mean that
you start
is
as
good.
You start as a single point solution, and then you rebrand because that no longer like fits your company because you've grown that name. Like if you were called calculator.com and your core product was like a calculator, and then you actually broadened scope and you became like a platform for all people who wanted to do mathematical equations, being calculator.com may not fit with the company you're trying to be. So I think that there are some cases where it makes sense. You give me an example of where it made no sense at all, and then why you think it made no sense.
All right, I want to talk about this, but first, I think we need to give a little detour for everybody watching on...
Oh, I've got one, by the way. I've got one that makes no sense.
Hold on. I want to give everybody the grounding of brand architecture, okay? Because this is very important. And unless you're a deep marketing dork like the two of us, you don't spend a lot of time thinking about brand architecture. But there are essentially two models for brand architecture. They're called a branded house and a house of brands. So an example of a branded house is Google. Google has the core Google brand, and then they have Google Docs, Google Calendar. It's basically Google blank, right? That is a branded house. Everything shares the Google brand, all the products and suites in that brand. Though Google's not a true branded house because they have YouTube and a few other things, but we'll get there in a minute. But they're a majority of what Google is a branded house. The other is a house of brands. Right now, Facebook/Meta is a house of brands. Right? They have the parent company brand Meta. They have the Facebook brand. They have the Instagram brand. They have the Threads brand. They have the Oculus brand. And they're kind of trying to be a branded house in a way. It's like Oculus by Meta. Like they're kind of like, I actually think it's pretty messy what they're doing right now. But at its core, you either have basically a house of brands, a bunch of different stuff. Atlassian's another good example of this. They have the Atlassian brand, but then they have Jira and Trello and Confluence and all those brands. Or you are a branded house. At HubSpot, for example, we are a branded house. We have HubSpot Marketing Hub, HubSpot Sales Hub, HubSpot Service Hub. Everything is HubSpot blank, and it's pretty clean. So before we even get into rebrand world, I think it's really important that people think about the two basic methods of brand naming and architecture. And if you are running a business, you need to pick one of those two routes.
Right. And Twitter became X because it wants to do what Meta did. It wants to have like multiple things under the X umbrella. Like that's really his vision. Well, his product vision was like, X is going to be an incredible, unimaginable... Well, it wasn't from him, it was from the CEO. Like, X is going to be unimaginable. It's going to connect humans in totally unimaginable ways through AI that we never even understood how you're going to be connected before.
I don't know if you've seen this yet, Kieran. Have you seen the new X tagline in the App Store? This is a TechCrunch article. This is the tagline in the App Store. This is the tweet from Elon, and this is actually the new X tagline. Blaze your glory.
Oh, it takes sense. What's that Will Ferrell skiing movie? That's awesome when he's like, is that
Blades of Glory, the skating one.
Yeah, is that like when he's a skier?
Yeah, he's a skater, ice skater, yeah.
Let's see.
Underrated
Blades of Glory.
Will Ferrell movie, by
Wait a
the
minute,
way.
is that what it is?
The Will Ferrell movie is called Blades of Glory. Underrated Okay.
Oh, totally underrated.
What is your number one underrated Will Ferrell movie?
Oh, underrated. So I've watched all Will Ferrell's movies. I guess Anchorman is like highly rated. It's one of his best. What's underrated?
I'll give you mine while you're thinking. The Other Guys, him and Mark Wahlberg in the cop movie.
Step Brothers.
Love that movie.
I don't know if I would call it underrated, but I think Step Brothers is one of the greatest comedies of all time.
I think you could actually make the argument that Step Brothers is underrated. I think most people would put it middle of the pack in Will Ferrell movies.
I think it's one of the greatest of all time.
Downhill was one too.
Oh yeah, Downhill. That's the skiing movie, Darren. See, producer Darren coming in hot with a good underrated Will Ferrell movie. Other Guys.
Oh, the other guys with Mark Wahlberg. Oh, that is such a good movie.
It's hilarious. The Will Ferrell bits in that are amazing. In the YouTube comments, what do you think is the most underrated Will Ferrell movie? We got to this question because of the new Twitter tagline. So Twitter,
I love that. So Matt Elon could just like literally make up stuff and just like, it's awesome. You know, back in our day, like when we wanted a side hustle, we would go to flipit.com and we would buy an affiliate site for a couple $100 and we would like try to add some content and put AdSense there. When you're Elon rich, you can just buy like a $44 billion company and just treat it like a flipit.com, like secondhand site. You know what? I'll just stick on Blaze Your Glory and see how that goes.
So this is now the tagline in the App Store. It went from the Twitter tagline used to be "Let's talk" to "Blaze Your Glory," and my favorite part, double exclamation points.
Oh, you need double.
Because one is not enough.
That's not enough.
You need to have 2 exclamation points.
So I think if we come back to like the 2 brand archetypes you set out. So like in terms of logic, makes sense. Rebrand to X, have like a house of brands under X. I will say that it's poorly executed. Obviously the product vision is poorly articulated and that tagline is really funny. But I wonder if any of it actually matters because Elon's brand for X is chaos. And it all fits, like it's community-led chaos. And so like everything he does actually fits with the brand that he has created for his version of like Twitter.
So this, I think, is a very, very good under the radar Kieran point that I want to kind of turn up the volume on. First, we started the show by saying rebrands are a terrible idea. Then we broke down kind of the 2 types of brand architectures. One of the reasons rebrands are a terrible idea is that your brand in general, Kieran, and your brand architecture in general matters more or less depending on the type of company that you're running. And you're making the right argument, which is what Elon is doing is he is running a personality-led business. He is fucking putting glow-in-the-dark X's up on top of buildings.
Batman
Elon will do a stunt every 2 weeks and not care, right? Like he's figured out, I have more resources than anybody else, so why not just be completely stunty and drive interest and awareness constantly? If you are willing to be that stunty and that over the top, does it really even matter what your brand is?
No.
He's
an awareness
that's
maker.
the point. So there are people arguing whether this Twitter to X rebrand is a good or bad idea. We're arguing the point that it doesn't fucking matter.
No,
it's stupid. Like you shouldn't even care about it because what he is doing is it's just the next step in a cycle of stunts that actually are brilliant. I'm sorry. If I were him, I would probably do the same thing.
Right.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think he has realized that the most important commodity that he brings to Twitter is constant awareness and engagement.
Yes.
And it really doesn't matter what he does as long as he gets that. Like the Twitter data came out this week that they had a record number for monthly active users. Now, who knows how they're measuring that since they're a private company. Now, they could be measured in any way they want. But I wouldn't be surprised to see monthly active users go up based upon the fact that Elon is just unbelievable at driving engagement to that platform. I'm pretty sure that revenue is horrible because his rebrand has drove advertisers away and has drove revenue away. And that's an important part about brand is like, who there's the rebrand for. I think that most good rebrands, and maybe we can think of one that we think was done really well, has a product vision or story behind it, whether that's because you want to be in a new category, because you want to broaden the way that people think about you. But there has to be like a really clear articulation of why you're actually going through that rebrand, and it has to resonate with users for it to be like, if the brand name and that is really important to you, be successful in that market.
Yeah. So I'm here to make the argument today, Kieran, that Elon is like a professional gambler. Okay? So I was in Vegas over the weekend. I'm sad to not be there with you. Kieran and I have a lifelong dream of going to Las Vegas together.
Oh,
It was a fight weekend.
Oh, you go to Crawford?
I didn't go to Crawford. I would have if you were there. I wish I would have because Eminem introduced him.
Yeah. What a dope
But I
fight.
played a bunch of cards, and I won some money.
What did you play? Blackjack? Bet you
Played
played
a bunch of
blackjack.
blackjack, won some money. And I realized, I was sitting there playing cards, and I was like, you know what? Elon is like a professional poker blackjack player. Because the thing is, when you go to play cards, with the probabilities, it's about just like timing of your game and when you walk away. And it's also having enough money to like you go through all the losing streak to come back to the winning streak.
Oh,
right?
this is the point I want to make. Yeah.
And so what Elon is doing here is he is taking a first principled approach. He is saying, look, I'm okay if my revenue goes down right now. I know where the trough is, but he is saying there's one principle that matters more than anything else in the business of a social network, and that is relevancy.
Yeah.
And he is trying to make Twitter, now X, relevant and make it a ingrained part of popular culture, because if he can do that, he knows he can monetize it. Right? He's not trying to just quickly monetize it and have it be relevant and go away. He is trying to make it a core part of popular culture. Whether he will or not is to be determined. That's the gambling side of this, right? It's like, how long can you play in the game and how long can you consistently win is the metaphor here. But he's willing to take some losses before he starts winning.
Yeah, you have to play the long game. The thing that I've learned most about great poker players, because one of the incredibly odd things about me, and I do find many things about me incredibly odd, even though like I am me, I still find
You're the oddest. You're not the oddest person I know. I'm the oddest person I know. You're the second oddest person I know.
But like one of the weird things about me is like a year ago I struggled to sleep, and so I got into this weird habit of, for some reason, I have to watch live poker on YouTube before I go to bed.
I like that you can't even acknowledge that without laughing.
I know, because it's so ridiculous.
You're like,
think
I'm
about
such
how
a
ridiculous
sad
it is.
human being,
Like,
but I have to laugh at myself when admitting this.
And my sleep routine is like insane. And so, but one of the things is like, I watch different types of poker. The great poker players actually can play through their losses, knowing that eventually if they continue to play out the math, the math will eventually work in their favor. But you have to like, they are losing pots over hundreds of thousands of, they're in the hole for like $1 million.
Yes.
But actually their long-term view does not change. They stick religiously to like the numbers, the math. And I think in Elon's case, religiously to the fact that he has an idea of how to monetize and then actually like work through the losses.
He's sticking to his principles. He has his principles. He's executing against them. And that's what he's doing. And that's why all the conversation about the Twitter to X rebrand is dumb. And
So what's a good rebrand? What is there a rebrand you looked at and you were like,
no,
that is
what is a rebrand that you thought has been good?
I have one that I thought was incredibly bad. I can tell that story and then we can try
tell me one good rebrand. That's what I'm looking for, Will.
Really
Give me one rebrand that has worked. Right. One.
Okay, I'll tell you one.
Give me one.
WWF to WWE. No, that wasn't a good one. Because they weren't allowed to use that for the World Life Foundation.
Well, look,
God, what is one? There's definitely one. There's going to be one.
I'm going to give you a ton of bad ones. Okay, first of all, there's one that in the financial services space, there was American Express Financial. So it had the American Express brand, tried and trusted brand, like a decade ago, rebranded to Ameriprise Financial. What the literal hell? Like,
we get the brand?
What is that a good, like, nothing makes that a good idea.
What is it? Ameriprise?
Ameriprise.
Oh, can we get the brand marketer on who actually decided that was a good idea?
It's okay. I'm sure they paid like $10 million for that rebrand. So it's totally worth the money.
Millions. You can just imagine, okay, like we charge 60 million. They go away. They come back. Big presentation. First slide. Ameriprise. And then who's the person in the room who goes, that's the $60 million brand.
So
dude, I could have done that for 10,000.
You had the Facebook rebrand to Meta, which I think was a rationalization of the investment they were trying to make in the metaverse. They spent
I don't mind Meta.
Kieran, they spent over $5 billion on that rebrand. What did it get them?
What did they spend? What did they spend?
They spent $5 billion rebranding Facebook to Meta.
Dude, how do I get into like the agency consultancy rebrand?
A lot of that was media. A lot of that was the advertising and everything around it.
We're now Meta.
But think about it. They did that in 2021. What happened to their share price?
Yeah, tanked.
And
they're back.
Then they did some layoffs. They focused on AI Instagram, competing with Elon with Threads. Now where's their share price? Whoosh. So like,
Right.
I believe that a rebrand is the public manifestation of internal confusion. Like you do not
Right.
know who the hell you are and what you want to be. So like, oh, let's rebrand. Let's confuse people by telling us that we're somebody new.
Let me give you the best example of that. Just to add on to like the worst rebrands of all time. Can someone please in the comments tell us a good rebrand? Because I feel like there is one, but we're missing one. But
producer Darren got some research for us. I did some research. You did some research. Like a non-trivial amount of time went into this show, and we could not find one rebrand that
talk
worked.
about. There's a taxi company in Europe, very much like an Uber, it was called My Taxi. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
My Taxi.
That makes a ton of
Get
sense.
my taxi come and gets me. Awesome. 1 month out of the blue, they rebranded to Free Now. So first of all,
Are you serious?
the taxi is not free. Like it's not free. And it's not now because it takes like some time to come to your door. And there's nothing about a taxi. And I kept looking at it going like, what, how did you ever go from like, okay, we're like an app. And they did this to actually, they made an acquisition of another company. So they needed to like combine both companies and create a new like brand for that company. But like, how do you go from something like My Taxi, which is like this, makes a lot of sense around that service, to like Free Now? I thought that was one of the worst.
So I think that's a great example. I'm going to give you another example that on the surface you would think would be good. This is a case of a rebrand where you're like, this should obviously work. So in 2008, Radio Shack rebranded to The Shack. Because
Yes,
it felt
I
like
this
the
one.
radios, like it wasn't, radio was an outdated term. It needed to modernize. And you're like, oh, it still has like the original brand ethos. It's pretty clear. Like, I bet this worked. It didn't work. And here's why it didn't work. They didn't change any of the product offerings or business model. They just changed the brand. They got a slight bump in profits, but then, and sold out to private equity in bankruptcy. Because one of the points made in the research here is that they filed for bankruptcy in 2015. So 7 years after the rebrand, they're in bankruptcy, which I think validates my point that a rebrand is just
Didn't your
an
guy-
external manifestation of internal confusion.
Didn't the didn't Tay, the guy who does the YouTube ads?
Yeah, bought the Radio
By-
Shack brand and has like an e-commerce store on it now.
Where he's like selling
But
courses.
one of the reasons that didn't work is because they alienated the original base with this rebrand, but didn't change the business radically enough to adopt a new base. And that's why a lot of rebrands fail.
Okay, I've got one.
Okay.
How do you like this one? I did not know about this one, but thank you, Bard. Dunkin' Donuts rebranded to Dunkin'. Did you know this?
I did know this.
Okay, because they wanted to appeal, which is the thing I said, to a wider audience, like because they have more products than just donuts. I have never actually ate at a Dunkin' Donuts, just FYI.
But the controversial thing to say is Dunkin' Donuts isn't very good.
No, it doesn't look very good. I don't think
not
I'll
very
eat there. Okay, do we like this one? America runs on Dunkin'. That was their new strapline from America runs on Dunkin' Donuts. I actually think America runs on Dunkin' Donuts
Also, by the
a pretty
way,
bad thing for America.
I would like to point out that the only close to maybe good examples of rebrands that you can come up with are actually not rebrands. They're brand modifications.
Yeah, they're brand modifications.
They're dropping part of the existing brand. On the flip side, why I think you are a freaking idiot if you rebrand your business. Look at all of the great businesses of all time. They are simple brands that have staying power. Apple, Amazon, FedEx, right? Like all of these, American Express, like all of these brands have long staying power. Even look at the Google brand. They created Alphabet as a holding company, but they didn't make a big deal of anybody knowing what Alphabet was other than Wall Street and the financial analysts. And so while they know what Alphabet is, everybody else is still focused on Google and the Google branded house.
Right.
And so like that wasn't even really a rebrand. That's just a creation of a holding company. And that's just like different chicanery of how they want to like basically hold the different businesses within Google. This has been a nearly 20-minute argument as to why rebrands are dumb.
No, I think they are.
You came into this, Kieran, I think believing that sometimes rebrands were smart. Do you still believe that?
I think the most logical example of them is the Google Alphabet. When
That's not even a rebrand; it's a holding company.
Exactly. It's like a business decision.
So let's put it one more way before we end the show. Let's say, Kieran, you were a CMO, you were in a job, and your CEO comes to you and was like, "Hey, I think we have to rebrand." What would you do?
Take the rebrand, make it last 18 months, and then boom, get fired, and I'm out.
Right? You would be like, "Okay, cool. I have less than 2 years in this job." Is the
18 months
thing you'd have to
rebrand,
think.
cruise control, you website, you look and feel, does nothing.
Give me huge severance. I'll see you later.
I'm out. Bye. And
but
add it to my portfolio, and then talk about it in my next job interview. Hey, I rebranded. It was incredibly
incredible.
amazing.
The business just wasn't able to execute the business side of things, but the rebrand.
Okay, I've got one.
Flawless.
I've got one I think is good, and you can't diss it because I love this company and I know the founder really well. Realtimeboard.com to Miro.com. And that was a really good one because Realtime Board, when they were like a younger company, and it didn't speak to the thing that Andrew was really trying to create was like a collaborative platform for basically the collaborative platform for the world. Basically, you can actually collaborate in that platform around any single thing. I like that rebrand. I thought it was really well done and a good name.
Kieran, you've brought up the one framework where rebrands can make sense. Okay,
there we go.
You would consider a rebrand if you can accomplish if there are two things that are true about it. One, the company is very, very early on, and you have very little brand equity.
Exactly.
Because you don't have much to lose. The second reason you would rebrand in that case is if you can take a complex brand and make it a simple brand. In this case, a 3-letter brand, Real-Time Board, or 3-word brand, Real-Time Board, to a 4-letter brand in Miro.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Those two
Makes a ton of
things
sense.
make a lot of sense. And I'd actually argue that's not even a rebrand. That is a establishing a brand for the first time. Like they had to start up with some kind of placeholder name and then they established the brand. If you are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years into a business and you're thinking about rebranding, holy cow.
Yeah. That's the most common rebrand actually. You see companies in pre-seed seed grown into them becoming a proper scale up, and I think they outgrow their name.
I will tell you to close the show. I think there is one thing that's even worse than a rebrand, and that is multi-brands. Like you get those the email signatures from people of it's got 5 different logos and 5 different brands to represent the companies they work for, and you're like, what
the confused brand?
You're like, I don't even know what this means.
Right.
So don't do that. Have one brand, even if it's a crappy rebrand. Have one brand. Don't have all these confusing brands and make it a mess. So we gave you the brand architecture. We talked to you why everybody was missing the point on the Twitter X rebrand because of Elon's first principles playing the long game or gambling analogy. We gave you a ton of examples of crappy rebrands and why they're crappy. And we gave you the one and only scenario in which a rebrand makes sense. That's a lot of value packed into 25 minutes. I hope that everyone enjoyed today's show. We'll be back with you real soon on Marketing Against the Grain.
This data is wrong every freaking time.
Have you heard of HubSpot? HubSpot is a CRM platform where everything is fully integrated.
Whoa, I can see the client's whole history, calls, support tickets, emails, and here's a task from 3 days ago I totally missed.
HubSpot. Grow better.